What I love about knowing you is how calm you are. With all of this energy, you have this beautiful balance of this vitality, this vital life force, but there's a sense of open arms, huge heart, please come, there's an inclusivity that when you're in your orbit, it's difficult to not want to stay there.
Well, thank you. Can you just follow me around and
yes, please.
For me? Well, first of all, I appreciate that so much, Sherry, and thank you so much. And to you, Theresa, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful, and it's, I don't know that I would describe myself in that way, because sometimes it feels like there's a whirlwind happening, right? And I used to have a phrase I used to say all the time: so much to do, so little time, So I'm learning to just seize the moment, and so I'm so grateful to hear that, because it's the first time I think I've been described in this way. But actually, that's not true. Recently, people have started saying similar kinds of things that I, at this moment, I'm realizing I wasn't paying attention to, and I think it's the moment that we're in, and I'm hoping that I'm learning the lessons from the moment that we're in, which is that's all we have is the moment that we're in, and so can I be fully present? Now, I will tell you, I wish I had realized this and embodied this when my daughter was really little, for example. And I often say to young mothers, particularly, cherish every second of it, because you're not going to know which second is going to be the one that's going to stay with you for the balance of your life. And for me, there's this one moment of my daughter's life. It was kindergarten. I just remember it. It was in June. It was like 150 degrees. It's kindergarten. I always worked. We lived in Center City, and I worked in Center City, and so I could easily. And she went to school in Center City, so I could walk everywhere. So at lunchtime, I had the privilege of leaving my desk, and I was a legal secretary at that point and at the bank, and I ran over to school so that I could see my daughter in her first kindergarten play. She was the sun, gorgeous little girl. And I get there, and she has the white t-shirt on, and she's, she was a little awkward, and it was always spilling stuff. Like she would walk, and there was like this tornado behind her, right? And so the first thing I noticed when I got there, I was like, Naja, why is there chocolate on your pristine white shirt that I just got? That was the first thought. The second thing is she was all the way across the room. She saw me come in, and from across the room, she screamed, "Mommy!" And she just barreled. She was also like a Saint Bernard puppy. She barreled through and just like did a running leap and jumped on me. And at that point, I was very much aware that everyone's eyes, their gaze turned towards us, and she's leaping in the air towards me. And I grabbed her, hugged her, and then I put her down because I felt embarrassed in that moment, because we were the only one having this kind of exchange. And what I now know, what I saw on the others' parents' faces was not condemnation, was almost envy. But at the time, it felt like condemnation and embarrassment, my own insecurity. And so I just hugged her really quickly, kissed her on either cheek, and said, "Hi, honey," and put her down. But if I could go back, there are very few moments in my life that I wish I could go back to. That's one of the moments that I would just hold my baby tight, hug her, spin her around, tell her how proud I am of her, maybe joke around with the fact that her mouth is up here, not on her chest. I would do that. And so I often say, and because, and this seems like a tangent, but it's not, because to me, that calmness comes in being in the moment, right? That no matter what else was going on, all I have is this moment. I can't bring some chaos from another moment to this moment, because then this moment is going to become chaotic. And so anyway, so all the parents out there, and actually you don't have to be a parent, just enjoy each moment, because you just don't know when.
I'm looking at the painting behind you that you had described before, the chaos, all of the chaos. But in that moment, you can see that word faith right there, everyone. We're on audio, so I don't know if people, unless we do some kind of video marketing.
We're only on audio. This is great. Oh my goodness, we put lashes on and everything. Okay.
We may do some marketing. Who knows? We might do a little video of that.
but but yeah, like, so there's a painting, it's by a woman named Tiffany, and she goes by the name of the American TBD, I think is what it's called, and it's called Finding Faith. So imagine the underpainting are just some really interesting and very lightly painted brush strokes, but then the rest of the painting just looks like, I don't know, a squirrel with some paint tied to his tail and some on his feet just kind of ran through it. And then somebody else came and splattered paint, and it's everywhere. And to me, as I immediately fell in love with this piece. I discovered this piece when we had a gallery program when I ran Art Sanctuary. And the moment I saw it, I knew it was mine, because the word faith is a tiny little word and it's written in the tiniest paintbrush. It just says faith. But as I said to Sherry and Theresa, the moment you see it, you cannot see it. So to me, this painting is a metaphor for all of our lives, that there are very few things that we try to plan things and then life happens to us. And for me, my own personal grounding is my faith. And so if I can find faith, then I can not only survive, I can thrive and see the beauty in the so-called chaos. Because to me, this is an incredibly beautiful painting.
And an awesome metaphor. Yeah.
I was really struck that your daughter was the sun, the element of fire. And
Yes.
as soon as she saw you, she was able to express that in her joy that you were there, that you showed up. And when we asked to prepare, we asked what your favorite element was. And your answer was space. Right. So here she comes with this beautiful fire, and you put your arms out, you created the space for her to greet you with joy and exuberance. And you talk about like having space around you with all of the chaos that we're talking about in this image. So on the one hand, it seems that, you really recognize that the world and life is very chaotic, but yet somehow you embrace the element of space.
Yeah, it's funny, Theresa. I think that, again, a lesson from the pandemic has that I've been embracing is that the fragility of life that we've all experienced in every aspect of our lives, whether it's our advocation, our vocations, our very lives, our relationships, financially, they've always been fragile. Some of us have just chosen not to pay attention to it, right? And so the reality is we've always been living, let's face it, we live on a ball that is spinning so fast, right? And that is close to this thing that could literally burn us up. That if that's not chaotic, I don't know what is. And yet we can find that space to be calm. And so I think if nothing else, or among a lot of the things, I've learned more gratitude. I've learned honestly to slow down, how do I put it? To see the entirety of what is in front of me, not just the myopic parts of it. I've never really been a compartmentalized kind of person. Again, most of my stories come by way of my daughter. I used to joke around. I used to say, oh, I was talking to my therapist, Naja. She taught me a lot. But when she was 17, she said to me, I figured us out. And I was like, really? What is that? And she said, you're a big picture person. You're a big thinker. Everything is related. It's all related. I like boxes. I like to have things in boxes. I like things to be neatly in boxes, and maybe or maybe not they touch, but basically don't mess with my boxes. When she said that to me, it was like, oh, everything changed to how we communicated with each other. I had known, she had taught me that I needed to, when I spoke to her from a very little girl, I needed to prepare her for what was next. Whereas I like to be surprised. She didn't necessarily like surprises. At 12 months, maybe 14 months, she's just learning how to talk. I made the perfect breakfast, the pancakes with the smiley face, all of it. She's eating and she was like, Mommy, this is good. And I was like, oh, thank you, honey. I'm so proud of myself, patting myself on the back, being a good mommy. And then she says, what's for dinner? I'm like, oh my God, can't we just do breakfast? Like, and the metaphor for how we think so differently. And so because of that, I've realized that I can take how I naturally think and really apply it to everything. So space, we do have the space. We do have the time. We all have been given 24 hours, which is crazy when you think about it. We all have 24 hours. That's amazing in one day. And it's how we decide to spend that time. And then if we swap time for space, we all have this space, the space that we need to do what we need to get done. And so it shifts our agency or our sense of agency. So I no longer feel put upon when I have to do something. I feel like I have agency because I get to do whatever. I get to talk to the two of you on this podcast.